If you just got back into collecting Pokemon cards, or you're brand new to the Pokemon card hobby, there are some common pitfalls that many collectors fall prey to. So I want to share 9 mistakes that beginner Pokemon card collectors make so that you can avoid them yourself. But real quick, legends, if it's your first time here, my name is Luke, and after 20 years, I got back into collecting Pokemon cards to chase that feeling of nostalgia from my childhood. So I invite you to come along the collecting journey with me by hitting that subscribe button below. And mistake number 1 that you should avoid is not having collecting goals. Now, goals offer 2 things that are very important to this hobby. First of all is a chase. And honestly, that's part of what makes this hobby so fun is the chase. Whether or not you're opening packs trying to pull that really expensive card, or you're going after that card on eBay or searching for a card at a convention, having a goal helps you to identify what that chase is for you. And the second part of that is goals provide a focus. If you haven't experienced that FOMO, that fear of missing out, or that shiny object syndrome, at some point you will. And so having a focus will really guide you into making smart buying decisions and also not burning out, which, believe it or not, is a thing that actually does happen in the Pokemon card hobby. I think you'll find that this idea of focus will really be a common theme throughout the rest of these mistakes that you need to avoid. But again, having a goal provides that focus for you. And so it's important to articulate what those goals are for yourself. And there's a lot of different ways to collect. You may have a goal to complete master sets, which is where you collect every card from a particular Pokemon card set. Maybe you have goals to collect every of a certain species, like Dragonite. That's actually one of my goals, is to collect every single Dragonite card. Maybe you want to get an entire set or an entire holo set in a PSA 10 or even a PSA 9. And of course, your goals can change over time, but having none can really leave you vulnerable to making several of the mistakes we're about to mention here. Like mistake number 2, which is having no budget. Now, the way me and my wife do our budget is we basically have different buckets set up for different things like necessities, like bills, eating out, investing, what have you. And one of those buckets is actually something we call play money. And so each of us basically gets a certain amount of play money each month, where we can basically use it on whatever we want. The other person can't really question how we're using that money because it's our money to use like we want to. So when I started off collecting Pokemon cards, my play money budget was about $150 a month. And so each month I really tried to stick to that budget as much as possible and not overspend, because I knew it would be eating into some other things that we want to do with our finances. Now, that number, of course, is going to be different for everyone. It might be less than that, which is totally fine, or it might be much more than that. But you need to figure out what is realistic and what can you actually afford to basically throw away and never see that money again. Because this is one of the biggest things that I see contributes to burnout in this hobby, is people overspending. Because a lot of collectors, when they first get back into the hobby, they're very excited and they just want to buy up all the cards that maybe they missed from their childhood, or all the newest chase cards. And that can be a way that this hobby becomes very unenjoyable for you if it actually becomes a liability and not just a fun little thing you do on the side. You know, when you're overspending, it can cause unnecessary stress in your life, whether problems with your spouse, or maybe you just personally feel uncomfortable having so much money tied up into cardboard. And absolutely, you do not want to go into debt buying Pokemon cards. So as much as possible, I'd recommend not using credit cards to buy your collection, unless you happen to be a business and you need to buy inventory. You know, that's a different story. Instead, you want to treat this as a hobby that you're going to be in for the long term, and so you can be okay with taking it slow and taking your time acquiring the cards that you really want. Now, on to mistake number 3. One thing that can be very fun and enjoyable about this hobby is ripping packs, for that chance to pull the chase card. But mistake number 3 is ripping packs as a way to collect or invest. Like I said, opening up packs is fun, but let it just be that. The truth is that the odds are not in your favor to pull that expensive chase card and, make up the value of the box that you just bought. And so it's important to know in the long run, as a collector, and if you decide to go in the investing route, buying singles is always really the way to go. In fact, some collectors out there never rip Pokemon card packs for that exact reason. So if you're someone who enjoys ripping packs, just try to have a balance and a limit on how many packs you open. And after you've reached that limit, you can plan to pick up those single cards on the secondary market and hopefully find a good deal. And one way I like to find deals on Pokemon cards is through the app Whatnot. Now this app features live streamed auctions where you can bid on Pokemon cards, and like I said, I find a lot of great deals on there. So if you want to do the same, use my link in the description below and you'll actually get a $15 credit to spend on there for free. But anyway guys, let's get into our fourth mistake, which is buying cards at the wrong time. Repeat after me, do not buy Pokemon cards during pre-release. Before a new Pokemon card set comes out, you may start to see singles from that set surface on the secondary market before the set is officially released. You know, maybe they got it through a pre-release event or by maybe some unsavory means. But regardless, for most of those cards, this is the most expensive they're ever going to be. So don't buy them at this time. But not only that, I wouldn't even recommend buying the singles within the first several weeks, even first several months of when a new set releases. That's because that's when people are very hyped on that set and everybody is trying to pull the cards or basically complete an entire binder set. And so when the demand is very high for those Pokemon cards, that's when people are willing to pay a lot more for them. But you can be smart and wait for the hype to cool down, and you might be able to pick up those cards for a lot cheaper if you wait several weeks after release or even several months. Mistake number 5, letting FOMO get the best of you. I briefly touched on this a little bit before, but I want to talk a little bit more on the fear of missing out, which is very common in this hobby. FOMO is something that can cause you to buy at the wrong time. Like many people did at the height of the market in 2020 to 2021, there was actually a massive bubble in the Pokemon card market to where the cards kept going up and up and up in value, and many people bought at the height of the market. But eventually the bubble popped, and those who gave into FOMO saw their cards drastically decrease in value. You see, FOMO is all too common in this new age of social media, which if you think about it, wasn't a factor when we first collected Pokemon cards back in the 90s. But now it seems we're just inundated with all the new stuff coming out, the new sets that are about to release, people finding special promo cards. All of this can cause you to want to be like everyone else and pick up those items right now. But in this hobby, patience is a virtue. So you have to check yourself. If you're tempted to make a purchase based on the fact that everyone seems to have that card, or because some YouTuber talked up this one box you need to invest in, take a second to think critically about that purchase. And there's a few things you can ask yourself in those moments. First of all, can you afford it? You know, we already talked about that. If that card or that Pokemon card product were to go to zero, would you still actually enjoy owning it? Is this something you could possibly get for cheaper if you just wait for the price to come down or look out for a good deal? The price for certain cards or products may eventually become so high that you have to weigh whether or not it's actually worth it for you to own it. And the reality is, there sometimes will be cards or products that you miss. I think a lot of collectors struggle with this, especially because a lot of us are completionists, but you won't be able to own everything. But that's okay. If you miss one opportunity, trust me, in this hobby, another one will come along. Mistake number 6 is chasing every set. You know, this hobby can move super fast. Within a given year, you're going to see probably 5 to 6 new Pokemon card sets released. Honestly, it can be very hard to keep up with that, especially if you like to collect master sets. But what I'm here to say is, it's okay not to master set every new Pokemon card set that comes out. For a lot of people, it's just not even feasible. But also, if you're like me and you like to open up Pokemon card products, it's also okay to skip sets as far as opening. You'll learn as you go along that some sets are better than others, and even though you may kinda like one set, chances are there's a much better set that's on the horizon, and it's okay to skip one and save up your money for the next one. Now guys, if you're enjoying these tips so far, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more tips in the future. And consider joining our new private Patreon community, where you can get access to exclusive benefits, like monthly live calls with me and other community members in our new private Discord. You'll get exclusive access to replays of our Q&A live streams, and I'll be shouting out specific members within my videos right here. But if you're one of the first 5 people to sign up, I'm also giving away a Legend t-shirt, so this is happening for a limited time, so make sure you take advantage of that while you can. But now let's get on to mistake number 7, which is never letting go of cards. In the end, this is still a personal preference. I know some people who never sell anything, but I think they could be missing out because these cards are valuable, oftentimes you can sell one card and have the money to buy something that you like even better. And also you can trade cards that maybe you pull from a pack that you don't intend on collecting. You can trade that for a card that you actually do want. And again, this goes back to why having goals and having a focus is really important so that you know which cards you want to keep and which you're okay with letting go of. Even if you have a card in your collection that you do like, or maybe it's even a card that you really loved at one point that you don't love as much as you used to, it's okay to let go of that card because trading it or selling it may mean that you can afford a card that you really want in your collection. Mistake number 8, focusing on profits. Now this point may not apply to everyone. I'm actually friends with a lot of investors and flippers in the Pokemon card hobby. They actually own Pokemon card businesses and they get a lot of enjoyment out of the buying and selling process. Now we have to be honest with ourselves, part of what makes the Pokemon card hobby fun is that these cards do retain value. And so to say that the true collectors only just enjoy the artwork or enjoy the cards, I don't think is accurate. I think most people in this hobby enjoy that these cards actually retain some value, and it's fun to see your collection appreciate in price. It's fun to get a good deal on eBay, and it's a nice feature that you can sell some of your cards to recoup some of your costs and afford your collection. But I would say for the majority of people, especially if you're brand new, focusing too much on the money can really take all the joy out of it. I've even had people reach out to me saying that they got into Pokemon cards because they saw dollar signs essentially. They saw that they could flip products, they saw these cards had value, but when they actually sat back and started to become a collector and enjoyer of the cards themselves, they actually started to have fun, whereas before they weren't. I think for the majority of collectors, it's okay to not think of this as a business and keep it as what it is, which is a hobby. And finally, the last mistake you should avoid as a Pokemon card collector is collecting things that you don't actually enjoy. And while this may seem obvious, you'd be surprised how many collectors have cards in their collection based on what someone else enjoys, not what they actually enjoy. Do you actually like graded cards? Do you enjoy holding sealed product? Do you actually like Japanese cards? Do you actually like collecting Charizard cards? And for each of these things, it's okay if you do, but it's also okay if you don't like these things and you choose not to collect graded cards or you choose not to collect sealed product. Do you want to buy that card because you actually enjoy the artwork or because you like the Pokemon or because you have memories attached to that card? Or is it because a content creator hyped it up and caused you to have FOMO? This brings us back full circle to having goals and having a focus. You see, your focus and your goals should be based on what you personally enjoy as a collector. The truth is, there is no right or wrong way to collect Pokemon cards, but like we've seen, there are mistakes you can avoid to make your collecting experience a whole lot better. So if you enjoyed these tips, do me a favor and hit that like button and let me know in the comments below. I think you may enjoy one of these videos on screen for more Pokemon card tips. And lastly, I want to let you know that no matter what you're going through, you are not alone. God is with you and He loves you, and we do too. I'll catch you next time.